She sits in front of the screen, the cursor blinking in the empty field next to project fee. Her fingers are still. The number she knows she should type feels like a physical weight in her throat. It's not a calculation anymore. It's a test. A quiet voice asks, "Who do you think you are?" This isn't about market rates or competitor analysis. For some people, the moment of naming a price, especially a high one, triggers something else entirely. It's a psychological threshold. If you've ever felt your stomach tighten before sending a quote, or rushed to explain and justify the number before the client could even react, you're not alone. This pattern is more common than we talk about. If this feels familiar, I'd love to know. Leave a comment below telling me what that moment of hesitation feels like for you. Think about the last time you had to state your value in clear monetary terms. The air in the room changes, it becomes charged. For many, the number on the invoice isn't just a request for payment. It's a request for judgment. It's exposure. You are no longer just the helpful expert, the creative soul, the reliable professional. You are now someone asking for a significant amount of money. And in that shift, a cascade of internal alarms can go off. The brain doesn't process it as a simple transaction. It processes it as a risk of being seen differently. What if they think I'm greedy? What if this changes how they feel about me? What if they laugh or get angry or worse, look at me with pity? The fear isn't primarily about losing the sale. It's about losing the connection, the approval, the silent agreement that you are a good person. This is where the logic splits. On one side, there's the rational mind. This is my expertise. This is the time it takes. This is the value I deliver. On the other side, there's the emotional core, often formed long before this career began. It whispers a different story. Don't take too much. Don't be a burden. Don't make yourself a target. Stay small, stay safe, stay liked. So the person freezes. The high price they envisioned gets trimmed down before it even leaves their lips. They preemptively offer a discount, or add endless extra services for free, or drown the number in a sea of explanations. It's $5,000, but that includes absolutely everything, and I'll be available 24/7, and we can break it into 12 payments, and I totally understand if it's too much. The price becomes an apology, a negotiation against themselves. The physical sensation is real, a dryness in the mouth, a slight heat on the back of the neck, the urge to look away from the client's eyes. It's the body reacting to a perceived social threat. Because for this psychology, charging a high price isn't a business move. It's an act of vulnerability. It's standing in a spotlight you never asked for and waiting for the verdict. And the verdict, you feel, won't be just on your work. It will be on you. Where does this voice come from? This internal critic that equates a fair price with being excessive? It rarely starts in the boardroom or the freelance contract. It starts much earlier, in the quiet lessons of how we learn to take up space, or not take it up. For many, the difficulty with high prices is tangled with a deep, often unspoken sense of deservingness. It's not about what the market will bear, it's about what they believe they are allowed to receive. This belief is a collection of old stories, a childhood where money was a source of tension and wanting more felt like disloyalty. A cultural or family message that said, good people don't focus on money, or we help others, we don't charge them. A personal history where setting a boundary or asking for something was met with rejection or guilt. So, the person carries this invisible ledger. On one side, all the value they give, the hours, the care, the results. On the other side, what they feel entitled to claim in return. And for them, the two columns are not allowed to match. Claiming full value feels like tipping the balance into selfishness. It feels like taking more than your share. This is why rejection hurts so disproportionately. When a client says, "That's too expensive," the rational mind might hear a budget mismatch. But the emotional core hears something else. You are too much. Your needs are too much. Your existence at this value is too much. It's not a business no. It's a personal one. It confirms the deepest fear, that by asserting your worth, you have made yourself unlikable, unacceptable. This leads to a confusing blend of guilt and resentment. They feel guilty for charging, and then resentful for not being paid enough. They exhaust themselves with over-delivery, trying to morally justify the number they already lowered. They think, if I do enough extra work for free, then maybe I'll deserve the payment. It's a cycle of self-sabotage disguised as generosity. Watch for the language they use. They say just a lot. It's just a logo. I just did the strategy. They minimize their own work before anyone else can. They frame their fee as an unfortunate necessity, not a fair exchange. I'm so sorry, but my rate is... The apology is built right in. There's also a fear of transformation. They worry that charging high prices will fundamentally change who they are, that it will turn them into that cold, money-obsessed caricature they've always disliked. They cling to the identity of the accessible helper, the artist who isn't tainted by commerce, the expert who is above the vulgarity of negotiation. To put a high price on their work feels like selling a piece of that identity. It feels like becoming someone their former self wouldn't recognize or would even judge. So the low price becomes a protective shell. It keeps them safe. Safe from judgment, from conflict, from the terrifying responsibility of having to fully own and stand behind their value. It's a way to remain the good, humble, unthreatening person in the story. The cost of that safety, of course, is their own energy, their growth, and the quiet resentment that builds when you are constantly underpaid. They are trading financial value for emotional security, and often it's a trade they don't even realize they're making. After the quote is sent, a different kind of tension sets in. The waiting. Every minute of silence from the client feels like a verdict being written. The person checks their email constantly. They reread their proposal, now seeing every sentence as a potential mistake. Was I too direct? Should I have softened it more? Did I sound arrogant? This is the performance of worth. It's the mental and emotional labor that happens after the number is out in the world. The person isn't just waiting for a yes or no. They are waiting for validation, for acceptance, for proof that they haven't damaged the relationship by asking for what they're worth. When the reply finally comes, they don't read it for the content first. They scan it for tone. Is there an exclamation point, a smiley face, or is it a curt, formal acknowledgement? The emotional state of the client becomes their own emotional weather. If the client seems happy, they can relax. If the client seems hesitant or neutral, they immediately assume the worst and start preparing their retreat. They draft a follow-up email in their head. Of course, I'm flexible. We can adjust the scope. This hypervigilance is exhausting. It turns every client interaction into a high-stakes emotional negotiation. The work itself becomes secondary to managing the perceived feelings of the other person. The focus shifts from, I delivered great value, to, do they still like me? This is where the impulse to overdeliver becomes compulsive. It's not about excellence anymore, it's about atonement. They throw in extra revisions, free consultations, additional resources, not because the project needs it, but because they need to balance the scales in their own mind. They are trying to pay off the moral debt they feel for having charged a high price. The free extra work is the unspoken apology. See? I'm not greedy. I'm giving you more. Now please think well of me. It creates a confusing dynamic for everyone. The client who agreed to a price for a specific scope now gets an overflow of unsolicited extras. They might be pleased or they might be overwhelmed, but for the person providing the service, this over-delivery is a safety behavior. It's a way to control the narrative. If they give more than promised, then the client can't possibly think they were ripped off. They preempt the criticism they fear is coming. The tragedy is that this often backfires. The client, sensing this lack of confidence, might start to question the value themselves. Or they simply get used to receiving premium work for a discounted emotional price. The person trains their clients to expect endless generosity, burning themselves out in the process. The energy spent on this performance is energy taken away from the work, from creativity, from rest. It's a tax on their nervous system. They finish projects physically drained, not just from the labor, but from the constant emotional monitoring. The high price they charge doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a stressful loan they're still paying off with their peace of mind. The money arrives, but the shame, the guilt, the fear of being found out as an impostor who charges too much, that lingers. The transaction is complete, but the psychological ledger is still open, waiting for the next opportunity to settle the score. What does it look like on the other side? Not the side of fear, but the side of a different kind of agreement. It's not about becoming ruthless or seeing clients as walking wallets. It's about a fundamental shift in what the price represents. For the person who struggles, the price is a request for permission. Please allow me to take this much from you. It's framed as a taking. This is where the guilt lives. But what if the price was seen differently? What if it was seen as an invitation to an exchange, a statement of value, a boundary that creates clarity for everyone? The shift begins internally, with a separation of identities. You are not your price. Your worth as a person is not the number on the invoice. Your kindness, your generosity, your character, these are not currencies to be traded. They are parts of you that exist independently of the transaction. Charging appropriately for your work doesn't make you less kind. It makes you sustainable. It allows that kindness to continue without resentment. This means reframing the no. A client's refusal of your price is not a rejection of you. It is a statement of their priorities, their budget, their current situation. It is a mismatch of conditions, not a judgment of your soul. The person who can hold this separation doesn't crumble when they hear it's too high. They might feel disappointment, but not devastation. They can say, I understand. Let me know if your situation changes, without feeling like they have to immediately slash the price to regain favor. Holding a high price requires a quiet confidence that is less about arrogance and more about clarity. It's the ability to state the number cleanly. The investment for this project is $5,000. Full stop. No just, no only, no trailing off into explanations. The explanation of value comes before the number, not after it as a defense. You explain what the client receives, the transformation, the result, then you state the cost of that result. The price becomes the logical conclusion of the value, not a shocking surprise that needs to be apologized for. This changes the dynamic completely. You are not pleading for approval. You are presenting an option. You are a guide showing a path, and the price is the toll for that specific, well-built road. If someone chooses a different path, that's okay. It doesn't mean your road is worthless. This clarity is a form of respect. It respects your own time, energy, and expertise. And perhaps surprisingly, it respects the client's intelligence and right to choose. It treats them as an adult capable of making a decision, not as a fragile relationship you must manage at all costs. The energy is calm, grounded. There's no frantic performance. The work can then be delivered from a place of focus and integrity, not from a place of debt and exhaustion. The yes you get under these conditions is a different yes. It's a yes to the value, not a yes to your desperation to be liked. And that agreement is cleaner, stronger, and far more professional for everyone involved. The journey isn't about never feeling the flicker of doubt. It's about changing your relationship to that feeling. It's about recognizing the old script, the one that says asking for your worth is dangerous, and learning to hear it without obeying it. Think of it as building a tolerance. The first few times you state your true price without flinching, your heart might race, your palms might sweat. The old fear will be there, loud and clear. But you do it anyway. You let the number sit in the silence, and you survive. The client doesn't gasp in horror. The world doesn't end. The relationship doesn't shatter. Maybe they say yes, maybe they say no, but you are still there, intact. Each time this happens, the neural pathway of fear gets a little weaker. The pathway of self-respect gets a little stronger. This is slow, internal work. It's not about adopting an aggressive sales persona. It's about returning to yourself and asking a simple, profound question. What is the real cost of charging too little? It's not just the lost money. It's the resentment that simmers. It's the burnout from overcompensating. It's the quiet erosion of your belief in your own work. It's the message you send to yourself over and over that you are not worth full investment. That cost is far higher than any client's rejection. The goal is to reach a point where the price is simply the price. It is a boundary, not a battlefield. It is a fact, not a confession. This allows you to show up differently in the work itself. You are not trying to earn your fee every single day through frantic effort. You have already agreed on the value. Now you can focus on delivering it with presence, not panic. Your value does not decrease because someone cannot see it or afford it. A museum doesn't put a lower price on a masterpiece because one visitor doesn't understand art. It holds the value, knowing the right people will recognize it. This isn't about elitism. It's about discernment. It's about understanding that your work is not for everyone, and that's not a failure. It's a filter. It allows you to work with people who truly value what you do, which makes the work more enjoyable and impactful for everyone. Charging your true worth is, ultimately, an act of integrity. It aligns your outer reality with your inner value. It closes the gap between what you know you can do and what you allow yourself to receive for doing it. That alignment creates a sense of wholeness. The exhaustion from the performance fades. The energy you used to spend on guilt and justification becomes energy you can pour back into your craft, your life, your peace. This is the space you take up when you stop apologizing for your price. It's a calm, grounded space. It's not arrogant, it's assured. It's the space where good work meets fair exchange, and where both you and your clients can breathe easier. If exploring these kinds of quiet, internal shifts is valuable to you, consider subscribing to the channel. A lot of what we discuss here is about understanding these psychological patterns, so turning on notifications means you won't miss the next conversation. Thanks for listening.